The world's first hacking incident. Long before the age of the internet, the idea of hacking was born not from computers, but from curiosity. The first hack in history didn't involve laptops or Wi-Fi. It happened on telephone lines. Step back to the late 1950s and early 1960s. Telephones were the main form of instant communication across the globe. Making a long-distance call was expensive, and international calls could cost as much as a week's wages. Hidden behind the dial tones and the clicks of the rotary phone was a system that very few people understood: the Bell telephone network. Inside the network, calls were routed using audio tones. Each function, like connecting a call, routing it overseas, or accessing an operator, was controlled by precise frequencies of sound. These tones were the secret language of the world's most powerful communication system. And then, someone figured it out. A blind teenager named Joe Ingressia, later known as Joy Bubbles, discovered that if he whistled a perfect 2,600 Hz tone, he could trick the phone system. At just 7 years old, Joe had this strange gift. He could whistle the exact pitch that the Bell system used to reset a phone line. With a simple whistle, he could make free long-distance calls. This was the spark that ignited the very first case of phone hacking, later called phreaking. But Joe wasn't alone for long. In the 1960s, a small underground community began experimenting with ways to manipulate the phone system. They realized that by sending the right tones down a phone line, they could seize control of switching systems. This allowed them to reroute calls, explore hidden parts of the network, and most famously, make free calls around the world. The most legendary of these early hackers was John Draper, better known as Captain Crunch. Draper discovered that a plastic whistle given away in boxes of Captain Crunch cereal could produce the exact same 2,600 Hz tone. By blowing into this toy whistle, Draper and other phreakers could unlock the Bell system. Authorities, of course, didn't see it as innocent exploration. By the 1970s, the FBI was investigating phreakers. John Draper was arrested multiple times for phone fraud. Yet, the legacy of those first hacks lived on. Young tech enthusiasts like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, the future founders of Apple, were fascinated by phreaking. They even built and sold blue boxes, small devices that reproduced the phone tones, giving anyone the power to hack the telephone network. Wozniak later admitted that without the blue box, there might never have been an Apple computer. So how did the world's first hacking actually happen? It wasn't about breaking into a computer system or stealing data. It was about curiosity, discovery, and sound. The world's first hack was a whistle, a toy from a cereal box, and a group of brilliant misfits who realized the world's biggest machine, the global telephone network, could be tricked with nothing more than a note of sound. This moment marked the beginning of a culture that would evolve into modern hacking. From phreakers to computer hackers, from dial tones to digital code, the spirit has always been the same: understanding systems deeply enough to bend them in ways their creators never intended. Today, when we hear about hacking, it's often tied to cybercrime, espionage, or security breaches. But the roots of hacking are much more human. They began with curiosity, with a whistle, and with the question, what happens if I try this? That simple question changed the world. The very first hack wasn't about money or power. It was about access. It was about curiosity meeting technology. And from that moment on, the world would never look at communication systems the same way again. Every password cracked, every exploit discovered, every system tested, all of it traces back to a boy whistling into a telephone and realizing he could talk to the world for free. That was the moment hacking was born.